Our situation here is September, October, and politically, I made some die rolls to see if anybody wanted to start the big war. It's a hard call, right? Because Japan is set up, ready to make the move. The weather isn't perfect, but it's not bad. Northern monsoon is free. They chose not to. They want to wait and try to go against Russia, and they don't think the U.S. is ready, although the U.S. force is close. Likewise, the U.S. and Britain made a check. Basically, 50-50 chance whether each side would go in. However, the U.S. did put a bid in for one reason, really. They didn't have to, but they could pull the Spanish Republic, Brazil, and Persia into the war if they succeeded. Now, how much of a help is that? Well, I don't know. Persia, it's conceivable that some Persian troops could move in and help in India. Beyond that, I don't know how much there really was. So it was kind of a foolish bid. And that almost convinced them to go. So I took another roll for them to see, hey, are you sure you don't want to do this? But basically, yeah, neither side wanted to start the war yet. The Japanese reasoning is they want to conquer Russia. And they want to get their advantage on Russia. And they're not going to get a chance to do so, I don't think. But the U.S. reasoning, they're not quite as strong as they could be, I guess. All right. While it's on my mind, these suckers shouldn't have been able to build them. I've been building them just as regular resources. Those and factories require you to use the zero option to build. I'm gonna allow people to build them whenever they like. Germany's got and Italy have gotten theirs on the board already, as has Japan. They might have more coming in, but where it would have been expensive to get that bid in is earlier in the game when there was competition for these. It's a shame. That's something that's not in DoD2 but is in DoD3, and I found it while I was skimming through. No really big deal, but yeah, yet another place where I guess I kind of cheated in favor of the Axis powers, and they're doing pretty damn well because of all of the different things I've done in their favor. Most of them accidental. You can see September, October has been a long turn. Mainly bad weather. Not long in the sense of having, a lot of impulses, but we made it to the end of the track. This is the last impulse for everyone, and Germany has almost wiped all the Russians off the European map. They still have Leningrad to hit, and you can see they're expanding and moving into the Asian area. The Russian planes have not been able to unflip because they have no oil. They're in supply under normal whiff rolls. They would have been able to, but something like this, it's just unable to get any supplies through. So that has been a problem. We've got Italians and Turks beginning to position themselves here. Not going to attack yet, but with this fair weather, Japan's considering a couple of possibilities. One, am I yet in range that I could launch my attack on Russia? And I think the answer is no. I have very little that's close enough to actually launch the attack. But maybe it's time to hit the U.S. And I'm allowed to declare war, at any point. And we could do a lot of damage at this point. Possible landings in the Philippines. We can't hit the Brits. We're not going to expend points for declaring war on the Brits, I don't think. We're going to let them have their surprise attack. But, that's the ugly thing is we absolutely know the Brits are going to come into war if we declare war on the U.S. But no, we're not prepared for it. That always weirds me out, the automatic first turn surprise attack. And that's why we'd be doing this, is we want that first turn surprise attack. But maybe, you see, the Western Allies actually have the first shot. Maybe they want to take a shot at it. They've been considering, though, hey, let's let the Japanese start the Russian War before we actually get involved here. Because obviously they're positioning for it. And you can kind of see the Japanese looking and saying, you know, we're gonna have a painful time of things if we invade Russia, because then the U.S. gets first strike, and then they get to carry the war against us while we're tied down in Russia. The advantage, though, is, of course, we have this huge ground army in China that, yeah, maybe it can break through and do something against the British line. Maybe I can, you know, come out of the ports and start taking some actions and use some of those forces as invasion forces, or at least as reinforcements for the invasion forces. I've kept my Marines all in Japan itself with the intention of doing some naval invasions, but I will have to reinforce, you know, at least an attack on the Philippines. I have to worry Borneo. The Brits have started putting troops in there. Down here at Hong Kong, that's going to be a tough crossing, but the point is it doesn't go either way. Of course, Hong Kong's not that important. It's a major port. Oh, I got my engineers. I should get them moving, actually. They repaired the port in Batavia, and they're probably repairing that port too. That's something that's hard to remember, is, hey, when you capture a port, it's damaged. Well, a major port, but it counts only as a minor port. And I've got no real markers for that. So like Siam, Bangkok's a damaged port. Actually, the Chinese ports are all damaged. I don't really need them. I can pick troops up and gather them in an invasion force. It's just, you know, it might be useful to have at least one major port down here, especially here where that doesn't look like it's a 2. This divides here. Yeah. Anyway, a lot of things I'm playing kind of fast and loose with, as is usual, but I gotta really think very hard. Do I want to launch that preemptive strike? So one thing I've been thinking in this game is that partisans don't have quite the kind of effect you'd expect of them. They don't have enough, I would say. Here in Yugoslavia, with its 9 rating, you have to keep way too big a garrison. You're going to have partisans there unless you're stupid, you know, unless you have a stupidly heavy garrison there. There are other places that might be similar, and there it kind of works. France, I've got a garrison, there's a slight chance that one will occur. But Russia is the really hard case. They put a big 25 on it. But if you're in the midst of conducting big campaigns in Russia, chances are you have 25 or close to it points sitting inside of Russia, not in a zone of control. Certainly with no Russian army and, you know, my army kind of loose from there, I have that. But it does mean that it's going to take one hell of a huge garrison to hold Russia once I'm done with the campaign. And especially now, you know, that I'm facing the European map, or the Asian map, where it really doesn't take as many pieces to conquer. There is going to be a significant garrison down here. But in your normal, you know, blitzkrieg or whatever, you're going to have lots of forces, but they're all going to be near the front. They're not going to be on the front, but all those planes are going to be, you know, heavily impacting your garrison value. If it didn't include planes, it might work a little better, The numbers might have to be changed or something. But the real thing that bugs me is that there's this huge swath of territory back here where there are no forces assigned to garrison duty. Personally, it's the all or nothing. You know, if I have 25 units, essentially, I am guaranteed not to face a partisan situation. I definitely prefer some other games and how they handle partisans. The old Advanced Third Reich, and yes, you can see Global Wars missing from there. I'm looking at it. The old Advanced Third Reich had where you had to, your enemy had to supply them with something, with some funds for them to be effective, and you know, it's assumed there's low-level partisan activity no matter what. But if the enemy doesn't allocate some of their resources towards the partisans, they're not going to be an effective force. And then once they do that, they can put them pretty much anywhere not in a zone of control, which means, you know, they can spring up in all kinds of obnoxious places. So you can fully garrison an area by covering it with zones, but normally you can leave large swaths of territory unprotected, largely with the thought of, well, it doesn't matter that much if a partisan shows up there. So the enemy has the choice of trying to create them there or not. But if you leave an opening, the enemy can abuse you with them. There's sort of a weird gray space in this game, which is what happens if somebody over here chooses the declaration of war opportunity and chooses, you know, say it's the US, to get a declaration of war on Japan, and then Japan wins the military initiative. Will they be allowed to sort of trump in? And my feeling is no, they shouldn't be allowed to. If you buy that sucker and you get the jump there, you win it. As long as you take it in your first impulse. You wouldn't be able to, because you're paying for that in a way that you're not paying here. You pay later. You're putting it on credit, essentially, when you do it on the military thing. Whether or not that's reasonable, I don't know. But otherwise, it would kind of suck, because you could pay for your declaration of war over here in the diplomatic side of things, and then get it reversed, and you didn't get to declare war. Alternatively, of course, you could just say, well, making the declaration of war over here doesn't matter. It's only doing it during the impulse that even matters. So don't bother. Always buy it on credit. Either one makes sense. I'm just choosing to go with the, if you do buy the bid there, you're putting certain political impetus into play that costs you more, and that gets you an advantage that's not just a matter of winning that little, you know, this little die roll over here for your impulse. Now, of course, you have some opportunity to modify this die roll. You can demand a re-roll if you aren't in the -1 space. But, hey, you know, that's life. So I've got to figure out what's going on, first of all, with the weather, and whether anyone wants to make, you know, the dive in now. Because this is almost like, I know I was thinking this, but I didn't say it. It's almost like a big game of chicken here. Japan would love to not have to go to war with the US and Commonwealth, and to delay until after they've knocked Russia out of the game. Alternatively, though, the US doesn't really want to go to war while they're behind. They want to get more production in play. But if either one decides to jump in and go to war, they gain an immediate advantage with that surprise attack, where they can cut down the other guy's navy significantly. And they can also do some quick land grab type stuff like the Philippines or whatever. Although the US is making that harder. The fortification in Guam, not fortification, but troops being put there, significant troops. Philippines is probably going to be next this turn. Japan's looking at, well, it's, you know, the island hopping's already happened. You know, the Americans are set up with bases. I'm never going to get that perimeter that, you know, prevents the U.S. from going forward without wrenching those things that are already heavily defended, and that's hard to do. If I had done it earlier before Guam got fortified, I could take that. Now, Guam's not terribly important, but it's important. It's as important as Wake or Midway. You know, it serves a purpose in terms of dominating, you know, certain naval areas that I can now put naval air in. How important that is? Well, I remember naval air being pretty damn important. On the final choice is the Brits, who have this, oh, geez, we're going to be at war with Italy soon. Maybe we don't want to go to war with Japan. But again, if the U.S. is in the war, the Commonwealth's going to have to throw into it. So it's this situation where all the players are kind of sitting there saying, who's going to kind of unblink? Who's going to pull their gun first, you know? Do you dare? And do you not? And it's an interesting dynamic where I could definitely see this happening in an opposed game with a couple of players sitting around saying, I really don't want to do it, but I know I better do it. That effect over here is nobody did a damn thing. There just wasn't anything worth doing, essentially. You have to pay money, and money is important right now. It goes directly to the production. Over here, Britain and Italy, neither one feels like they have the advantage. Both have forces they can draw in. The Italians up here, and in Italy itself they can pull down. Britain worried about, you know, I only have a couple of units here. The Italians outnumber me, but maybe I can ship more in and get a better position there. Plus, I don't think I'm going to be on the offensive as the Commonwealth there. This was the big one. This is the one that makes the most sense to do, and I gave a 50-50 chance to both sides to choose it again. Neither one did. The attack on Russia doesn't make sense until the weather clears, which is going to be quite some time, and may not be worthwhile. The Italians and Germans may have most of the prizes by then. There's a long way to go there, though. There's a lot of empty space. It doesn't look like it compared to the European map, but remember, each hex is twice as big. Actually, it's probably more than that. But it counts twice as big in terms of... there's a weird distortion going on here. If you look at the... what is it? The Third Reich Rising Sun map. The Rising Sun game, the scale is 1/4, is 4 times larger. And this map covers more territory, and the size of the two maps in Third Reich Rising Sun are the same. The size of the two big maps here are the same. This one's got to be more than twice, you know, the European map. Just considering, and worse, this map also counts as 2 each. Now, if you look at the U.S., it spans about that big. We'll take that and put that over in China. Okay, well, that's about half the size. You know, it's about twice the scale of the Asian map, because the U.S. and China are about the same size. And, you know, obviously, the proportions don't work. But in terms of net effect, they probably work out well enough. It does get weird, though, when U.S. planes can go flying across here and rebase more easily than they probably should. Maybe I'm missing something there. Oops. I forgot a couple of Japanese things that perhaps they wouldn't have had enough for, but I'm going to cheat in their favor there. Because I like to cheat. Okay, and what else do we have? Why is this ship still here? A battleship sitting there at Monado for some reason. Okay, and so we're not going to see much change diplomatically. I mean, everybody chose not to do anything, so we don't even see, you know, factors like Spain being able to be called in or anything. It's all just straight military this time. I'm holding off playing because this is going to be an ugly turn. I'm on the axis turn of this third impulse, I think. And the weather's clear. So, hey, I want to do something. Okay, well, obviously, I know what I'm going to do with the Germans. They're going to perform their airstrikes. It's going to be a complex turn, but I could have handled that part of this impulse before I started working, but instead I had an early meeting today and a number of other things. But the biggest factor that has been making me drag my feet, and may make me drag them all day today so I don't get anything done, is Japan has decided to go in against Russia because of the clear weather. And then I thought, well, you know what? If I go against Russia, the Allies are going to hit me. So I've got to go against the Allies, get that first strike in. Here's the problem. The sequence of life. I can't get a Pearl Harbor by the rules. So I choose my action. Well, first of all, that causes problems because can I even do, you know, I don't have an offensive chit, so I can't do the grand combined action, which usually works pretty well. So for Japan, if I take a lander combined mission, I only get a small number of air actions. Now, 2 air actions in the land is pretty limited, actually. Like, much less than 3 for Germany. Jesus, I've been cheating this all over the place. Oh, this doesn't count for... there's actions that don't count. So I'll have to look that up. I think... I hope ground strikes don't count. I know ground support doesn't count. If ground strikes count, I've been really allowing way too much air capability. The reason it should count, though, I'll ignore that for now. Okay, naval moves, I either get as many as I like or under combined action. Well, Japan gets 2 naval moves in a combined action. So I'll have to take a combined action if I want to use my Navy at all. And I've been doing combined actions in China, probably illegally because, well, we'll see. Based on the air thing. But I'll only get 2 naval actions. Well, that's enough to send me my fleet to go attack Pearl Harbor, and I can send another squadron out to do something else, because a naval action is not on a per ship basis, it's on a per task force basis. So I could send everything out of Truk to hit here, or I could actually send both task forces to hit Pearl Harbor and hit it really hard. Of course, I only get 3 land moves in a combined action. Totally blowing that away, but whatever. I've been cheating left and right here in a number of ways. Okay, but the problem is the port attacks happen here, which means that I can't move before I make the port attack. Now, I'm pretty safe with the weather, but I'm also late enough in the turn that I may not get my attack off, which means I'd sail out here to the Marshalls and, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think most of my ships have a 5 movement out here. Some of them, we got some 4s here. But let's say I'm sitting out here, maybe even 6 for the carriers. No, we got 4s in there. Okay. So I'm going to be sitting here probably in the 2 and 3 box. Now that's important because whenever I get to the highest level affects my port attacks. But then if the turn ends before I get another impulse, these guys either have to go home, and I fail to declare war, because I don't want to declare war before I make the attack, or they drop down a level and become weaker. And I pay, if I do go home, I have to pay oil to recover them all for having returned home, because they went out on a mission and came back and they're all expended. Now, these are both bad things, but the biggest thing is I don't get to do the port attack. As soon as I move out here, the US can evacuate with their fleet. Not their entire fleet, but as much of their fleet as they're not required for once you militarize Honolulu. Once you move the fleet out to Honolulu, it's stuck there. But there's just a certain number of pieces you have to have out there to give you a benefit for declaring war, and that's the number of pieces you have to leave out there. And these don't belong here. These are the Siamese political effects. Siam no longer exists. But yeah, that's painful. Now, another thing to look up is, have I been cheating everywhere with my air attacks? Something tells me that I'm allowed to do ground strikes without counting against. Activity limits. Okay, so they say every aircraft unit that flies counts as an air mission, but I know that's not correct. So ground strike. And I don't see immediately an effect here. No. If I look elsewhere under ground support, I also don't see an immediate statement. So I'm not sure where that controlling statement is that I'm looking for. So here's the controlling location. So ground support I could always do without accounting. Unfortunately, ground strikes, unless I take an air action specifically, they count against what pick I have. So they'd be A, B, or C table. And if I'm taking a land attack, well, I only get 3 ground strikes, which means I only get to send 3 bombers out to attack at any one time. Now, I had segments here, impulses, where I had, 3 bombers going into 1 Hax, because one of my tactical ideas in the game was, the Germans produced the big, Luftwaffe, and they kick ass with it. Apparently, I was under a misconception there. You have to do an air action and then do a ground action. Now, if you do an air mission, an air action, you do not even get a land move. And clearly you don't want to do combined actions all the time, because they just really limit your activities on everything. For example, if I did combined for air missions, I'd get 5, which probably is enough for that. Now, I'd have to also look up something else. Escorting aircraft, which I'd have as many as I like. They don't count. So a lot of my planes that were out there that were being used were fighters. I probably didn't cheat too much on most turns, but towards the end, I had a lot of German bombers. They were generally coming up as big whiffs. But basically what it means is you have to pause for an impulse to launch your airstrikes, your ground strikes with the planes. I'm always crap with these anyway. But yeah, so that's one reason you want to have offensive chits, but at $15, man. So that was I don't know if that's changed. I doubt it, but I seem to remember you could send a bunch of planes up. More than I seem to remember the limit wasn't that painful to me. But then again, I was cheating elsewhere too. So in a lot of ways, the Axis is doing better than it should, which isn't surprising. Look, Russia fell. I mean, not all the way, but the European front is gone. Which doesn't seem unreasonable to me, given that Turkey threw its weight into the game, and Russia was weakened, but there were other factors as well, like the reserves I mishandled as well, for both sides, but that hurts the defender more. So I'm trying to look here for what we have otherwise. So naval air missions only count on an air action as well. So if I take a naval action, I would only get 2 air missions. So I couldn't even patrol a lot of territory. I don't remember them being this restrictive, but I may either be misremembering or have played wrong, you know, even in opposed games where I was playing way too fast and loose with these limits. Trying to cut down on my electric bills and or actually live in the real world, I opened up my window, and I opened it up because there was a bit of a storm going on, some nice wind. I thought I weighed everything down, but apparently not. Uh-oh. Even took the pen with it. I got crap all over the place. I don't know. I'll be able to recover somehow. The reason I came in was, well, I was going to start playing this turn, but obviously I'm not going to be able to, or this impulse. I came to a decision with Japan. They are not going to declare war on the U.S., nor prepare for it. The reason is, half their reason for doing so was to avoid a U.S. strike on the Japanese fleet. Well, that doesn't matter at all. If the U.S. moves into place to do a port strike, the Japanese can say, screw this, man, and just sail out. Because of the sequence of play that we saw somewhere else in here, where the port attacks happen before you do movement, therefore you can't possibly surprise somebody with one. The only exception, of course, well, the only factor in there is the U.S. can be surprised. The U.S. can't sail their whole fleet out, but they can sail all the carriers out. Now, there's one fillip to that, which is that if I get real lucky and the turn ends here, or in some similar location, and the Allies don't get a turn, and then somehow or another I win the initiative, even though I'm at -1 and they're at +2 on the die roll, and they get a reroll if they want it, expending one of their advantages, then conceivably I might be able to catch the American fleet in harbor and actually bomb the carriers. That's the reason I want to catch them. I don't really give a shit about bombing the old battleships. There's new battleships in there too, but they can sail out too, if I wish. They need not. There's some advantage to leaving a bunch of capital ships in there because they add to the counter-air factors and we'll be able to take things out. But I don't see any advantage to trying to launch a surprise attack under these conditions. There's too much American presence. And again, you know, maybe this is me not catching some subtlety about the naval system, but so much of it feels like this to me, where it's like, oh yeah, I could do this, but it doesn't do me shit. So the only thing I ever want to do in naval combat and WIF is sit in my port and do nothing. Now, some of that is my inability to grasp naval strategy. Fine. But some of it feels like it's actually part of the system. It feels like it's really hard to get any kind of reasonable goals with the naval combat. If you have overwhelming force, yes, you can do. Well, there. It's just this. I don't know where that piece of paper came from. I think it got sucked out of here, where I had a pile of pieces under here, under some dice and crap like that, and flew this way, and it screwed this up too. I mean, these things are all messed up, and I mean, like, it couldn't be, though. It had to be this had to be blowing straight across the counters and just blowing the counters. I didn't realize it was that strong a wind. Yeah, well. Anyway, this might be the best time to just end, but because I'm really not looking forward to coping with the naval side of the game. I really hate the decision making involved in the naval aspect of WIF. Not that I got the land aspect right either, given that I ignored the activities limits. I had no idea they were that restrictive. I thought you could use ground support, ground strikes, and weaken the enemy's forces so that you can blow through them. Instead, what it means is you get even less attacks, essentially, because you never want to do a combined action or an air action. You want to just keep pressing the Russians. But there would have been more Russians left that would have been able to extricate themselves, because they would be able to do ground movements and everything and keep shuttling their factories out. So they would have been in better shape than they are now. It couldn't be much worse, right? I hate this place. I can't even fucking start sorting things. I started getting things together. Boom! There go the French. And we got, what? Who knows where the hell this shit is from? God damn it. You know, I mean, there's not much of a breeze, but I'm just getting sick of this shit. Seriously, this is ridiculous. There's counters from over here, the PM counter. That's the political, no, that's the PM from over here. I don't know. But I think there's counters that flew from this table over to this table. I think I got most everything down to a believable state. I've got kind of a windbreak here for now. So I still have the window open. You know, in the next half hour, I'm going to have to close it because it's just so hot and sticky. But there is one thing that I lost. There's an Italian money counter. And plus, these are totally random. I have no idea where they should be. I think there's a British money here. Somebody's there. I got no clue. I don't know. But the Italian tens digit or whatever, their counter, is just gone. I've looked around on the floor. There were a bunch of counters down there. I don't know if maybe it's fallen into here somehow, or, you know, if I'll find it at all ever. But I seem to be lacking it. Plus, I've randomized the money for everyone, randomized some of the locations here. Possibly the political situation in Spain is wrong. I have no idea. You know, convoys may be wrong. Basically, what happened was nothing actually jumped the table, except maybe some paper. And it plowed into stuff here, drove it over. This is maybe right, maybe wrong. That got hit pretty hard. Nothing else really did over there. Yeah, these aren't right. This is over here. This is all screwed up. But, yeah, you know, I mean, it's in a playable state. So, I can't complain anymore. Anyway, like I was saying, I think my decision is that the Japanese are not going to make a first strike on the U.S. and quite possibly the U.S. doesn't give a shit. The idea of them making a first strike on Japan is really just a, hey, get out of your port. You know? They're not going to be able to do much there, but they may be able to gain some ground by making the first strike. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to how much territory can you take. Well, Japan doesn't want to pay the money for the declaration of war. It's not that much, but they just don't want to do it. Even though they're kind of ahead right now, I don't feel like they're ahead enough that they can dig the U.S. out of the Philippines now that there's fair forces there. Guam, they could, but we'd rather fight this war after the Russian war is over. And we'll probably let the Allies come to us with the war. In some ways, maybe it's for the best that nobody launched an attack. The Allies also didn't, or started one. Because the next action phase was really terrible weather. Blizzards in the Arctic, for example. But maybe more important, a +2 on the next weather phase, which means it's going to likely be pretty bad weather. You know, my feeling with the U.S. is, look, I have probably about as much force as has been redeployed to truck. We're near the crux here. We're near the tipping point. So maybe it would make sense to start things as the U.S. Japanese, not a lot of advances here. We got one little, a couple of resource spaces actually, which will help because that's more oil. But we didn't, you know, collapse this whole thing in one impulse or anything. Likewise, the Germans had kind of a semi-failed attack here, and you know, with the good weather and the realization that things just aren't going to get much better, we launched an assault on Leningrad, which didn't really do anything. It killed a unit. Well, that's a Leningrad militia. There's space for a Leningrad militia now, which means because those have a one-turn turnaround, the Russians can rebuild it. So basically, we lost, I think, 2 decent little units in reaction to costing the Russians essentially nothing because they can keep building in Leningrad. So I don't, you know, there's not a lot of movement going on. Probably the most dangerous place is right in here. The Japanese advances on those factories. That could mark the end of the Soviet Union if all their factories fall. So that's where they're going to have to, you know, devote their defensive force is towards that side of things this turn, this upcoming turn. And they may have some trouble doing that. A partial penalty for turns in which I'm pretty sure the Germans launched more than 3 aircraft, 3 of their tactical bombers. I charged them their offensive jet. They certainly would have used it for that advantage at least once. Whether they owe for another one, I'm not gonna try to penalize them in that way. I can only find 2 German synthetic oil wells. I seem to remember there was a line of like 3 or 4 of them running up here. I don't know where the extras have gone. I'm not giving them oil for them until I can find them because I don't know how many there were. And I don't know where they might be. I've looked on the map and they don't seem to be anywhere. These navies were all scattered. Maybe I have absolutely no idea where they might have gotten to. Oops. And we roll into 43. Not great weather in the Arctic. Not terrible. We got a pretty good roll actually, but it's January, February, and you're not going to see good weather there. That leaves the Japanese with an interesting situation. They had to pay for their declaration of war last turn on Russia. Or was it the turn before? I don't know. Anyway, I think it was last turn. It's hard to tell because I screwed up over on this sucker and didn't have... So I wrote the war in here, but I forgot to put the actions in. Nobody did anything this time except Japan paying for their war. And they're not really paying for it, just making sure they got a bid. They already paid for it. They had to have the cash. Anyway, this is a turn where if a surprise attack was going to do me any good, it would be the time to do it. I can declare war on the U.S. alone or on the U.S. and Britain. And I don't see too much value to declaring war. Well, see, I'd have the surprise attack on Britain. I'd be able to gain some ground there. I could also declare war on France at the same time. Now, doing the multiple declarations of war, I have to pay for them all. On the other hand, the Brits, their reactive declaration of war, they would not have to pay for because they're a level 3 ally with the Americans. Which is something I should consider with Japan, although I have almost the entire Japanese force full built. Yes, there's a decent number of new stuff that came in for 43, but I could build that up pretty easily. I do not have anywhere near the whole, U.S. or Commonwealth force pools built, but a declaration of war won't affect U.S. production, won't affect Commonwealth production. So there's a lot of positives to launching the war now. The big negative is, what the hell is it going to do? So if I move into here in preparation for a raid on the Americans, well, there's a few things. The American fleets are out and operative, which means they have a couple of task forces out. I hope they could do as many task forces as I moved. I can never tell. I'm allowed a combined move, so I gotta look at... This is such a pain in the ass. So U.S. combined 3, I'm in good shape. Commonwealth 2, I think I moved more individual Commonwealth ships than stacks of Commonwealth ships than I could. One stack went out of there, one stack out of there. No, I think I'm okay. Alright, I don't know. I've been cheating with them in terms of redeployments as well as with other people. Anyway, the problem is I'm not going to be able to really get an effective land move in Siberia. And I probably won't for a while. Which is one reason I may not have wanted to start the war, but I could get a fairly effective naval move in terms of maybe taking out things like Guam here. But I'm not going to be able to take everything out. The Philippines, for example, is going to be tough. There's a significant garrison there at this point. There's a lot of empty space down here in Commonwealth territory, which is one reason to make me desire bringing the Commonwealth in right away, like attacking the Commonwealth. There's territory I could grab, and conceivably I could also declare war on France at the same time. I don't know if I have enough money for all of this, though. I'm fairly deep in the negatives as I count it. And Japan can only go to -15. So actually, I can't declare war on anyone. So that decision's made for me. Assuming that I had the numbers right, I guesstimated at them. So we shall see no declaration of war. So the real problem with this all, though, is, yes, there's some U.S. forces out at sea. Well, I could move into those, and I could attack them immediately and get the advantage of a surprise on them immediately. But if I want my big port attack on Honolulu, I have to delay, and I have to give the U.S. a chance to get out of there, or even to declare war before I do. That's the whole problem here, is that my chance of getting off a successful surprise attack is pretty close to nothing, which is reasonable, in the sense that, there's so much tension and everything that kind of affects things. On the other hand, the U.S. chance of getting a surprise attack is pretty much nil as well. They'll get the surprise attack advantage, but there's not going to be a port attack unless the Japanese choose to allow one. And what's more is, if the Japanese fleet moves out to the Marshalls and sits there, it's the U.S. that gets the surprise attack. So my surprise attack is probably, assuming they get their die roll, my surprise attack will probably be hunting down these suckers, if I could do it. But I don't have the cash for it, which means the U.S. is going to continue to move their units and garrison things, and the Japanese are pretty much stuck with the take Russia, take our hit on that surprise attack, see if we can keep Japan alive. Our hope is that the Germans and the Italians are going to be able to turn things. Over here, we didn't see anything happening between the Brits and the Italians because neither one has a real advantage built up. And both are shipping more troops into the theater. So, again, more of that, geez, if I don't have to do anything, I won't, right? I've lost a lot of the impetus that's been moving me forward, in part because I'm really afraid of doing this naval war. aspect of it. I really hate the naval. I don't think it's particularly the naval rules, but it's the lack of certainty that I have towards doing anything with them successfully. I'm realizing I pretty much made up where these markers were. Now, I remembered this being here, but I may be remembering from a further turn back. I'm trying to think about what I spent with Japan, and what I gotta say is, I remember being here, I think, just before I bought things down. But honestly, I was in the low period, or low area of the map, of the track, and then I did a declaration of war on Russia, and that would have been the last expenditure. I think I have enough money for the declaration of war on the US. The question is, do I want Pearl Harbor? I need to go with the declaration. It's clear that I'm being outproduced. It's clear that this is when I have my numerical superiority. So, the problem though is I'm not going to have enough for a declaration against both, because I think I think we're going to put the, let me see, I got no idea, because we had that air thing which sucked my counters everywhere. I lost my Italian money completely. Of course, if I had the money, maybe there wouldn't be forces out there everywhere. No, I had made that decision beforehand. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, would I allow a declaration on Britain as well as the US? Put it up to -15. And I think we're going to go with that. So our Japanese are going to make their attacks. Now, the question is, do I want to hunt the transport activities that are going on, or is the port strike something really valuable? And my feeling is I want to hit the ships that are out there, as well as try to make some invasion headway somewhere. Of course, you know, I've got ground troops allocated everywhere, so taking something like the Philippines is going to be particularly difficult. I can probably grab Guam, and I can certainly grab, well, I don't know how certainly, you know. I mean, a one-point Marine supported by some firing power, you'd think that could land somewhere, but it's actually pretty hard, because there's all the damn modifiers to what the land is like, the notional unit. So, you know, I can only, that one-point Marine can only get 1 point of firepower to back it up, I believe. In Third Reich and its derivatives, you're allowed to put triple the firepower in to support an invasion. And in this, it's only 1 times, which means these little units just aren't able to overcome the intrinsic defenses, and there aren't any intrinsic defenses in Third Reich. Of course, the tables are a little different, but wow. Yeah, I don't know. And, you know, I may just walk away and not play again for another couple days. It's a weekend, I need to play, but I keep facing this and not wanting to do anything to do with it, because two things: the wind, and now, right now, is when the damn naval thing happened, and I just have lost all desire to play. Part of it has to do with, okay, I have to learn a whole new game now, right now, basically. Yes, I played the Guadalcanal scenario. I didn't feel very comfortable with the strategic elements of it, but also, that was a long time ago, and all this time I've been playing these other 2 games here, this political game and a land game, and now the world's different, you know. This is a problem with World War II in general, because the naval rules aren't going to be quite like the land rules, and just the nature of the game is such that usually, even if you're playing a historical type thing, usually there's not a hell of a lot of naval activity going on in the European map where the war is. There's not a lot going on supporting China, but now all the naval rules come into play at once. And that's just, a nature of a World War II style game. I've developed a certain level of familiarity with the land game. Not that I don't still make big mistakes, but now I'm having to look at this and start to plot my way through and do everything again, as though I don't understand a damn thing about the game. And I've been playing it for, I don't know how long, if we count the exploration games, months. And I just have no clue how to handle this. I'm trying to soldier on through it, but it's just really, really painful. Another big problem I have with the naval rules, and the land rules, I can look and I can say, okay, I bomb, I flip some units over, now I can calculate the odds and I know what's happening. And with the naval rules, I'm stuck with, and it's not to say there aren't games that I like it's not like this is, a damning criticism or anything like that. But for the naval rules, I have no idea what's going to happen. Right? I can conceivably figure out, hey, how many points of this do I have? What's the chart there? But I haven't had a lot of experience with it, so I don't really know what numbers, what kind of power work well. You can see I'm sending things all over the place. Now, I think it's stupid for me to declare war on Britain, and I may not be doing it. I may be reversing that, except that I've got all the stupid political activity from it already in place. But the reason is I can't do shit with a declaration of war on Britain. I really can't. I can't do any land attacks, basically, right? Land attacks in a Japanese combined would be 1, and a Japanese naval is 0. I could do a couple of airstrikes or something like that, but I can't really. Hopefully I can do invasions. I hate this chart. I can't imagine that I couldn't do invasions, but they're not. They're not. Here they are. Invasions. Ah, wait. No, I can only do them in land and... What the hell? All right, so I'm sailing out with my troops, but I can't actually take anything. Yeah. I mean, obviously the intention is you sail your fleet out and set it up to invade everywhere and everything, but you don't know what the weather's going to be like, and that seems kind of the opposite of, say, what happened with Normandy. You waited for the weather to break and then you went. I guess you'd have the guys out on ships just sitting there at sea, totally telegraphing your move or whatever. I have no idea. There's some stuff I really don't like from what I'm seeing of it. But anyway, what I was going to try to describe was, I don't have sort of a simple, I got 4-1 there, now I can look at a 4-1 chart, yeah, that looks good. Instead, what I've got is okay, well, how many factors do I have and how many did the opponent have? It's a firepower type based thing. Normally that's fine. And I can look and say, yeah, I got enough stuff, I can handle this. Now, I don't have enough in any single space that I can handle the entire U.S. Navy, which means the U.S. Navy is going to come out and kick my ass wherever I go. But I need to do a lot on this first turn. But when I'm trying to, govern in my head all the different things I can do with the naval move, there's just so many, and I have no idea how successful they're going to be. And in particular, I have no idea how successful the invasions are going to be, because there was some reason why I don't. It's just... I don't know why I'm grumping so much, because something like La Grande Guerre works in similar sorts of ways where you have to, you know, you have this combination of, okay, I've got the fleet, but I don't fuck around with the naval rules in that game because it's World War I. You know, I steam my fleet out and I try to make it so that the enemy must attack or must come out and defend. Here, though, I've got my forces spread out all over the place, and they're just going to get clobbered piecemeal. On the other hand, if I keep them all together, I might as well not declare war, right? Because I can't do shit. And I just don't understand naval. Now, if I'm playing something much, much simpler, like Victory in the Pacific, I can just push my pieces out, grab lots of victory point spaces, grab the important things, send out significant pieces there, and you know what? If the Americans come out and they attack me in force somewhere, that's okay because I can get away. Now, it's sort of the same here, in theory, except that I feel like I really need to do everything this turn because it's the stupid, you know, surprise turn. But it turns out I can't do anything. I can't invade. I can't, all I can do is hunt down these little crap ships. And then the war started and I lose my invasion, my first strike special. Now, if I had bought an offensive option, which I should have, I would be able to do the combined action, the super combined action, which would say, hey, I can, you know, do my war in Russia, I can do my war against the Brits, and I can do all these landings. But without that, no, I can't. And, you know, it's my fault for not planning that. But I've gotten too far here, so screw it. The Japanese are going to get trashed here. They're not going to get everything they want done, and they're going to get clobbered afterwards. But I really don't give a shit. After hiding from this damn thing for 5 hours without doing anything, which is what I just keep doing. Like, you know, I get off of work and I say, oh man, I don't want to do this. This is a weekend, but, you know, and then it's nighttime and I don't have time for it. It's really something I'm avoiding. I hate it so much. Not the game as a whole, just this level of trying to learn something new these days. I just don't have it in me. So anyway, we did the naval air missions and naval movement, and I think I've got everything where I want it. So now I get to start choosing my naval combats, and basically I'm selecting them everywhere. I don't know where to start, but essentially each naval combat has its own sequence here, and I think these all, oh no, they're done C by C, so I'll pick one first. Now, the U.S., because they're surprised, are not going to be allowed to, and yes, I'm attacking the Brits, say. I undid the money for them, but they're out here. I'm attacking them so they can't attack me or something. I just have no fucking clue. But I'll get to sink some of their transports or convoys or whatever. That's all I can hope for here. I mean, I would love to be able to get a first strike on them, but it's not going to happen. They're going to get to make the declaration of war and the surprise attack if I don't do it for free. So I might as well pay the bucks for it, although I don't really want to. So now, let's see. Let's do a simple one over here. We've got a submarine looking for some British ships. So the first thing we have to do is search, and we each roll a search die and compare it to the C box the committed units occupy. Well, what's committed? You must commit every non-subunit in a C area to combat. Okay. So I find a couple of dice and 10 convoy points are part. Now I have to look to see if there's any options that are in play here. So here I'd be getting up -1 because of the convoy, I guess, which is good. I'm in rain rather than storm, which may or may not have an effect on anything. Does not appear to have an effect on pure naval combat. And I hate playing games this way, where I have to follow every fucking thing and I probably get it wrong. And it's worse on camera. Oh, there's rain, so I add one to the search roll. It can be modified C8.24. Uh-oh. Well, if the rain... Okay, so that's carrier stuff. Okay. So, neither one succeeded, and we don't have a fight there. Now, I don't think surprise had an effect on that, but I can't be sure. So now I have to look up the surprise rule because something in my head says, hey, there's actually some effect to that. I don't think there is. But basically, my attempt at naval combat here failed. I flipped the ship over, but I can keep attempting it. That's a used up ship, though. It can't be used for anything other than search functionality. Now, how you indicate that a unit searched rather than something else, there's really no way. You know, I could have done a port attack or whatever, and my unit will be flipped over. And I have no way of indicating that that's a continuous search capability. All right, so I think surprise does not affect this, but I do want to check that again, and then I'll make some other attempts. And you can see this is just not going to work. Why did I go? I don't know, you know, because I want to knock out their shipping capabilities, I guess. I have no idea. Very much at the heart of this all. I have no idea what I'm trying to do. You know, I'm trying to weaken them, but, you know, taking out a few convoys doesn't seem like that big a deal, but I don't know, because they need them all to keep their production going. They're kind of sparse on convoys, actually, although they were able to pull 5 off of somewhere, I think off the coast of the U.S., because I found some additional U.S. convoys. And, you know, I pulled my Japanese convoys off the Mexican route. That's important because I don't want to lose my shipping capability that I'm going to need. So that stuff's been kind of allocated elsewhere. Somewhat illegally because I really don't pay too much attention to the convoys. Okay, so I didn't see any such surprise effects, and you can see these other Japanese subs have not done anything. I don't know why this is out here. I'll probably be calling that back somewhere. It doesn't really serve a purpose all the way out there. Oh, no, that's necessary for hauling this oil, because I don't have one here, and that would be the other opportunity. So this is actually of importance to me. Anyway, I hunted down everywhere where I had just a sub or whatever, battleship in one case, looking for British ships. Now, I think my next easiest is here. Now, normally the U.S. would be able to fly some kind of air interception, but because this is the surprise turn, that's not going to happen. So I'm over here, and I'm in the 4 box here, but I don't want to use, I don't have to flip that unit over. I think that corner over there is my bombardment, my ground bombardment. No, that's anti-air. Shore bombardment's the right corner. So these are equally good. Doesn't really matter which one I flip over. They're both equally useful. I could actually flip the plane, I think. I don't know. But I can still use this number. So I'm at like a 4, and they're at... Unless there's some special rule in surprise. See, this is what I looked for, and I didn't see it. So there's a special rule in surprise when you're ground striking that you're able to roll 2 dice for it. I didn't see anything like that here. Let me look again. This is what the game all becomes when, you know, it's not absolutely pattern, right? And that's true with any game, except this one has, especially in the naval opportunities, you know, 30 things going on at the same time that you have to all look up to learn at the same time. And that's why I would have liked Guadalcanal to have been kind of interesting, but I couldn't figure out what the fuck to do in it. Well, I can't hear either, but I need to do something. because I do have some strategic necessity to actually start hitting my enemies, right? So I don't see anything about it. This is what I looked for. But air units, see, air units have like, you know, a large amount, and somewhere in here is this bonus of 2 dice, and I don't see it. And that's what's weirding me out is, okay, if I don't see that here right now, I'm obviously not in the best of shape to be coping with this game because I'm so frustrated with the idea of coping with the game. You know, it's like, it's this pathological situation that can't be fixed. You know, the only way I can handle it is to fight through it. But I can't find the thing that I'm looking for that I know is here. Oh, here we go. Roll an extra die, bombers. So I don't see anything about searches being affected or anything. So, well, no, this is the wrong rule book. So I'm looking here, and I need a 4. I'm sorry. Yeah, this looks like the easiest. I need a 4. They need a 0. Let's do this one. Now, I'm in the northern monsoon, which is clear, and do not have any air cover. If I had air cover, I'd get an extra -1 to the roll. Okay, well, we didn't find anyone here. I don't know what I flipped over. I had done this one instead. Flip over some piece of shit for that. Let's go to this one. This is what I went for. Here I'm going for a 4-0 as well, except I have a plane here. It may only be CV air power that affects you. Oh wait, there's a -1 for the every 10 factors. I don't know. I counted that over here, but I forgot it here. But we'll try to do it here. So right now I'm at a 5, maybe a 6. Okay, so I miss again. And I should have little markers to note all these places where I've hit already. Let's go over here. I can search here. Too many goddamn pieces of paper. The game takes up enough room that when you're not trying to do something incredibly complex, it's okay with the table setup I have, but it doesn't work when I've got, you know, 4 extra references that I have to look at constantly. Okay, so if I'm over here, do I get I don't even know what the hell question I'm asking anymore, you know? I've got this humongous fleet trying to kill 2 things here. Oh yeah, what do I get to flip over for naval search? Somewhere somewhere it tells me I have to flip a unit over. Any one of the units in the area. And wait a minute. I'm allowed... No, I need to flip a new unit over each impulse, I think. To initiate, turn any one of your units face over. Okay. Let's flip this plane. Okay, so that puts me on the 4, 5, 6 because I've got both. Oh no, I lied. I'm getting confused because of this shit. So I think I'm on the 6 table there because I get a bonus for planes and a bonus for convoys. Okay, look, I didn't see anything there either. This is fun. I'm not finding a damn thing. You know, hey, at least I'm screwed, right? Here, I don't think I might have a naval. I have a naval landing there, so I might want to use that. So these are all pretty good. I'll flip the plane over, I guess. Kind of don't like to do that because he could stay out there and be a constant threat, but I may need my artillery, although I only have one strength point here. So yeah, let's flip over a battleship. And I don't know what all these are here for. Two of these are the Mexicans, who probably can't be there. No, 4 of them are the Mexicans. So they're like able to be in one of these islands. They had to be recalled. Okay, so I'm at 4, 5, 6 again against that. Now there is something here, a transport, but it got used. Hey, I hit them. Okay, now we get to actually do a naval combat. Excellent. All right. So now we look for something else. Search rolls. Also determine the number of surprise points you have. You can spend surprise points. Okay, if your modified search number in the highest section of the C box, so I've got 4 search points, 4 surprise points for the Japanese. Oh wait, no, modified search number. Okay, I think that's the big number. So that's 4 modified. It's got, well, it's got some modifications. Maybe. These are modifiers to the die rolls. The search number, though, is +1, so that's 5. That's because of the air power. So I've got 5 surprise points, and the Americans are surprised, so they get none. And then the opponent's unmodified search roll, which was 10. So I've got 15 surprise points. Supplies? Now I get to do things. I've got these points which are available to spend throughout this whole kind of complex situation. And I should have them marked down somewhere, but I've got nothing that'll remember them because this stupid calculator turns off in the middle, like if you don't press buttons. Really dumb design. My old calculators didn't do that. They were solar as well, but you had to actually turn them off for them to shut down. Okay. So I can choose the combat type anyway because we follow, there's some kind of list of the different combats you can choose. So I can make it a naval air combat if I have aircraft undamaged. If it's not naval air, I can make it submarine, and if it's neither of those, it can be surface. Well, I'm kind of good with any of them. And don't really know which I care about. I mean, I should be able to wipe them out. Let me look at what factors work the best, and I'll do some counting and look on the chart. Basically, what I'm facing isn't going to be able to hurt me because these are all 0-point transport type ships of various types. Now, I have 11 air-to-sea factors, which would put me here on the chart against, I don't know how many ships this is. I think it's each 2 counts as 1 for the convoy, so that would be 4 ships. So 11 versus 4 ships would give me 2 destructions. And that would be 4 of the convoys. If I'm right about the convoys, I have to look that up. That's in the back of the rule book, and it'll take some effort. Alternatively, if I do a naval, I had somewhere around 25 points, which will be the anti-air and surface points over here. And you can see that's going to be a smaller amount, where I get to destroy 1, damage 1, and abort 1. I'd rather take the higher factors. So let's go with the air to sea. I've got 11 points, but now I've got some points here somewhere, if I can find the place in the rules, where I can increase my column on the chart for 2 per. Now we were at like 15. So that sounds like the best thing to do. There's no limitation to how many times I can do that. So I can increase my column 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 puts me out here against 4 ships. I'm going to get to destroy 5 of them. Oh, I'm sorry, 4 ships is here. I'm going to get to destroy all 4 of them. So, you know, obviously that works, and I wipe these forces out completely, which is more or less what you'd expect. Now, the planes have not done a real mission. They've just been involved in combat, so neither they nor the carriers nor anything else have done anything. This is what happens when you find a crappy little force with tons of surprise points, right? I knocked them out very easily. The problem is I didn't find things elsewhere. And now I've got 2 more potential battles. Now this one's particularly interesting. Well, actually, both of these are interesting because there's troops that I can kill along with the ships if I get lucky. Okay, and we successfully wiped out the forces here. Now the forces here are more interesting though because there's actual military stuff here. The U.S. has 2 battleships. I shouldn't actually be able to transport the artillery on the surface ship, but leave that alone. They give, there's 10 here, so they give a +1 there. But I've also got some air power here. Now, overall, my units probably, the Japanese are better off in the air. So we've got some, actually 10 points of surprise in place here, which isn't very much, but it'll work. And so we're going to do an air battle, and this is done simultaneously. Let's see. So we make it naval air combat. And now we have to see if anybody's flying any bombers, anybody's flying any fighters. This has a good bombing factor. I'm going to use it as a bomber. The Japanese have some that are only good as fighters. So this is a fighter, this is a bomber. I'm going to use this as a bomber simply because I know what's there, you know. These are back here acting as partial screens with anti-aircraft fire. Now, anti-aircraft was the lower left, is what we decided. And then over here, we'll put the U.S. ships and their cargoes. And yes, that artillery is illegally being transported, but I let the Japanese do it, so I've got to let these guys do it. I'm probably less interested in hitting the convoys than anything else. They just improve my chances of finding things. Okay. So, now we go and we handle the fighter combat. Well, there is no U.S. fighter combat. The Japanese fighter comes in here. This is normal air-to-air combat. I've got +4 because I'm better. And I roll on the +4 table. I get an 8. Attacker aborted. This plane has to return somewhere. Is the Bunker Hill the safest place to return? Probably not. Can I get somewhere else? Yeah. I can drop him in there to save him. Alternatively, I could land him on the Bunker Hill and hope for the best, but that's going to be a primary target, so I don't want my plane there. Now, that aborted isn't real, is it? Yeah, it is. Okay. Well, it's not real in the sense that if there's another round of naval combat, it won't necessarily be there, but or it would be available again. It's not flipped in that sense, but by pulling him off the carrier, I've made him flipped. Okay. So now I have my air points coming in, and here we're facing 3, 5, 11 points of anti-air. 11 points of anti-air. Now that's going to be facing 3 bombers, which would mean 2 would be damaged. I don't remember what that means for a plane. And 1 would be aborted. Okay, let's see if we have results. No. Sorry, anti-air uses a different value. So I said there were 11 points of anti-air, which would cause a -1-3. Okay, we did this before. I don't remember what it means. So Y is the number of dice. I'll be rolling 3 dice, and only the lowest die counts for hits. And those hits are broken into 10s that do damage, or 5s in the case of the carrier-based planes. So chances are I'm not going to do much here. I'm going to not spend any surprise points on reducing this effect. Okay, so the lowest is a 5. That's going to take out a carrier plane. Now what about the pilots for carrier planes? I don't see a gray. Yeah, every 2 convoy counts as a ship. I don't see a gray statement about pilots in here. So I'm going to have to go to the back of the rules for this and find out what happens with anti-air fire on... Oh. I think it's orange, which is the survived if shot down in... friendly territory only, which will pretty much kill them unless it's a port attack. But I'm not positive. So something gets shot down, and it's up to the Japanese to choose which. We're going to take this crappy plane here, and like I said, I think the pilot's killed there. So that goes over here into the dead pile. But now we get our points against them, and we only have 6 points coming in, which is this column. Now, I said we had 10 surprise points. That can get us 5 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Facing 3 ships. That would destroy 2 and do 2 damage. And an abort. And you might ask why those numbers don't really match up with these. Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, because there's defensive rolls, which we forgot. Oh, crap. I gotta look at that. So wait a minute. What was the defensive roll? The owner selects... If you roll the defense value or less, it takes the result. Otherwise, it takes the next worst result, i.e. an X becomes a D. Okay, so I've got some die rolls to make over here for the ships that were here. Now, these guys have defense values of 10, so they were going down. And the same with convoys. Okay, so what did I say I'm doing? 2, 2, 1. Okay. So I get to destroy 2. Now, the Colorado is the hardest to destroy. So I'm gonna, because if you get multiple results on the same thing, those add up, don't they? I seem to remember that. we're way over time on this. I'm gonna take it away. Okay, I don't see anything that does multiple results except to improve the odds of them happening. So I got 2 destroys. One of them is gonna go on the Bunker Hill. If I roll higher than a 5, okay. So the Bunker Hill is sunk. I want to be able to rebuild this. This is a good carrier, so we're not going to retire that. The Trenton is almost certainly sunk, and that takes with it the artillery that shouldn't have been on it. And then finally, this is taking 2 damage results. It reduces both of them. Now, a D goes down to an A, which means we get 2 A's. Which just means the ship is going to abort, and it automatically flees somewhere. Now, return to base rules is 13.4. I think it's allowed to sail quite a ways home. But maybe that's different. Naval unit. Yeah, it can go back anywhere in range. So I was out here in, I don't remember what box. I think the 0 box. Or no, I think the 1 box. So coming back from Clarion 1 to here, now I got 3 to get back, and I can return all the way home. 1, 2, 3. Or I could land somewhere over here. Say, I'm not really allied with the French, so I can't go in here, but I could go into Adamstown here. And these are just aborted, so they're just flipped over rather than... if they had been damaged, they would have gone back here. I believe the unit would have come in on the next turn, and the ship would have gone into the repair pool where I'd have to pay to bring it in 2 turns later. I'd have to pay the full repair cost. But it's hard to take a battleship out. Now I could have saved points, you know, to do other things like, I don't know, if I can find the naval combat rolls again here. Yeah, there's not really much I can do. I can't do anything to its armor value, as it were. So anyway, these are going to be all dead. I don't know about this cruiser, if I really want this back. It's kind of an old cruiser. It's fairly expensive. It's got reasonable values. I may have force pool issues. The U.S. has a lot of ships to build. And the Japanese, well, they get their planes back on their carriers, which means I have to flip all the planes over and see what their dates are. Now we're in 43 now. So this is green, this is orange, this is pale blue. Let's put this on the pale blue ship. This on a green ship, this on an orange ship, and this big 6 purple. Now I don't remember where I was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was in the 2 box here. And something got flipped over to do this. Yeah, these all could have made it here. We didn't do any hits on these. The Americans want to get them out of here. And they have 3 movement points. I'm going to pull them back to the U.S. coast. And there should be a used marker on top of that so I don't move it again. I'll have to find those. Oh, on the European and Russian side of Asia, the Germans really couldn't do anything. They're positioning themselves better for the attack on Poland that's got to come. But the Italians declared war on the Brits, They failed to find anything here, did a naval invasion of Port Said. Not a good invasion at all. They were making a 2-to-1 attack only, but really, you know, the fact that I had to do a combined move to get a shot at killing this armor here meant that I wasn't going to be able to throw the weight of my force against this lead force here in Haifa. The Port Said attack would be really awesome if it succeeded, because it would cut the supply off of these. They can't get military supplies through Saudi Arabia. They're not aligned with them in any sense. There's no cooperation there. So it seemed worth the risk. Basically, the Italians are launching their attack, but it means the Italians couldn't move any of their forces. And they have neat stuff they'd love to do over on the Russian side. And of course, if they want to press here, they need to actually move the forces and get things moving from here. They get a rail move if they want it, which they'll take, I guess, because it's going to take forever to get, say, this down. So let's crank this. I don't know. Drop it over there. But you know, the limitations, the activity limitations in this game, they feel like a lot. They probably wouldn't be such a big deal. For example, so playing with the oil rules, they feel like overkill. The oil rules, to me, take the place of the activity limits to some extent. It doesn't make sense to me that the Navy couldn't be undertaking, the Imperial Japanese Navy couldn't be undertaking massive maneuvers of its own while the forces in China are taking theirs. This is one reason I prefer the Third Reich system and its derivatives, which is, look, you know, you pay a cost to operate in a theater, whatever, you know, it may be a little too lax, but basically there's a resource cost to doing stuff, which is covered by the oil resources here to a large extent. Infantry being able to attack all along the line, maybe not so much. But to me it feels like WIF kind of reduces your capabilities below that of what World War I had, whereas, you know, it just doesn't make sense to say there's this temporal limit on the impulses. That, oh, it's good weather everywhere and the fleets are going to have to stay in because I needed the land move this time. It really kills me to see things like that. And like I said, with the invasions, what you basically have to do is a combined action to do an invasion, and that means you don't get very many attacks. Now that may be reasonable because you're not going to see all of Normandy falling at once, you know, to invasions all across the space. But do you have enough to cover all the different beach landings? I mean, invasions G&H, if you're doing a combined, I don't know what, it would be land moves. US and Brits, well, between them you'd have 7 units you could attack with. That doesn't mean 7 hexes. And that's the whole problem. You can only like move the number of units that you have activations for. And it makes it very, very difficult, you know, to launch. I don't know if Normandy can be covered with 7 units. You know, my feeling is, no, that's a little low. Of course, you could say, look, they paid for the offensive shit, right? And at least one of the countries did, and did the big, probably the U.S. did the big. Well, no, you gotta. The Brits threw a lot in too. You got to look at it as, you know, something like that. But that's a humongous cost for that undertaking. But on the other hand, the Normandy invasions, the Japanese move at the beginning, these are huge things. And, well, you know, I've made a lot of mistakes in the game. This one probably won't kill things either. It's just, you know, gonna be as silly. I have a really hard time doing that kind of planning. You know, the game already has had a lot of that, and now we're adding in this other layer of, I had to buy an offensive chit if I wanted to do this. So that's 15 more points. That's like, you know, in most cases, a turn's production. The Germans have about 30 points of production. And it's not like they have any any limit on their force pool that's preventing them from building everything they can possibly build every turn. You know, that's why no political actions are happening anymore, because we can't afford it. You know, just getting the army out there and throwing it into play continuously is really killing any chance of production. Anyway, nothing much happens in the north because it's yucky weather. I just can't do anything. Making attacks in bad weather just doesn't work. You need such high odds. The storms is what, 2 shifts against, I think? Snow is 2 odds against, storm is 2 odds against, blizzard is even worse, isn't it? Yeah, blizzard is 3 odds against. So, you know, you basically, if you don't have clear weather, it's really hard to do anything. The air attacks don't work very well, even with rain. I got enough problems hitting Leningrad because it's got swamps, which give a -1 due to the terrain, same as forests do, and you know, and not -1, halves the aircraft values. So it's just really, really hard to get any activity going, and that's always felt odd to me. And you know, the game felt maybe too decisive in Russia. But mainly the only thing I did there is there were a couple of turns where, even accounting for that offensive chit that I spent over here, that I didn't have, that I used too much airstrike, but probably not by much for the most part. So I'm not too upset about that. But my inability to plan, you know, these combined actions and get them to work right is really killing my ability to play. And I should get these guys moving as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. This video has run so long, and well, we have some good weather coming up. I'm going to see what the effects of these horrible things that I've started are going to be. Now I'm hitting the Allied turn, and we'll see. I don't know. I don't know what we'll see. We'll see what the Commonwealth and the U.S. can do. I guess that's the big thing that we'll see here. Again, France, I'm treating them as kind of a minor here that's aligned with the Commonwealth, because nothing makes sense really anymore. They can't really, they're not allowed to do diplomatic action, so they can't declare war, so they can't get themselves in a war with anyone other than Germany and Italy, which that is not entirely accurate. For example, they supported the Japanese, the offensives against Japan here. So, well, at the very least, with the Brits aligned with the French, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't seem like Japan should have to pay a full declaration of war on the remains of Free France. It seems like they're just inextricably linked. Anyway, I'm going to load this up. We've got really good weather. It's only rain in the Arctic, and everywhere else it's fine. So this would be the turn where we start seeing ugly things happening.